In this video, we're going to talk about OR probability. And just like our previous video on the overlapping probability, OR probability is still going to follow that same general format of we want to look for the total number of times that this event occurs out of the total number of outcomes. The thing is just in an OR situation, there's specific tips and tricks I can look for to make, maybe it a little easier for me to deal with. So before I give you that generic overview formula, let's just talk about OR probability. Now, in this video, I am going to be specific. I'm going to focus on the OR probability from a contingency table. If we were to look at it in a Venn diagram, which a later video does, maybe your shortcut or tips and strategies would be a little different. And so we want to be very careful with that. So now I've said that. Okay, so we have probability that someone is a daily or never uses social media to get their news. So daily, remember, was this column right here. They're my daily users. And never, let's highlight that in a different color, is this column of users right here. And so, or remember, it's either or both. So it's all the people. And so there's sort of two options here. One option is I can add up all the people in that daily column. But the contingency table has already done it. It's right here. This is my total daily. And so I can just take that number instead of adding those four separate numbers and say, okay, well, daily, there were, and I'll zoom that out a little so I can see it, 1,579. And then it's combined with all the never users. And just like that, I could add all four of those numbers, or I could simply say, well, we have that total there. So that 1,131. And so the total number of daily or never people who got their news from social media would be the total of those two totals. And it's still out of the total in that table, the 4,266. So the reality is, just like in our previous probability, I'm looking for, the number in A or B or both, right? Out of the total number of outcomes. Now, in this case, there was no both. There was just the total in A and the total in B. So I guess another way we could think about this is we found our total in A plus, and I'm going to run out of space here, but I'm going to do my best to fit it all in, the total in B. And we're going to put a little asterisk with that because we're not quite done. But let's finish this one. So we have 1,579 plus 1,131. We total in A, total in B. And then we divided that by 4,266. And so as a decimal, that's 0.635, which would be 63.5%. Okay, now let's change gears a lot because the two events we were looking at previously are what we call non-overlapping events, meaning there was no both. The totals don't work quite as perfectly if we have overlapping events. So let's look at what we mean by that. So if we erase everything here, and I say, okay, well, here are my daily, and then I have my daily or Gen Zers, and I go, oh, I can do the same thing. I'm going to add my total 1,579 and my total of 531, and I'm done, right? And I might be going, I'm feeling great about that, but there's a problem. And notice if we break it down and we look at the little parts of it. Remember, in this column right here, that total came from adding these four numbers together. The 267, the 565, the 415, the 332. And if I think about the row for Gen Zers, the total included adding all of these numbers together. Notice, if I look at those sets of numbers, there's a number that got added twice, that 267. 267 is both part of that 1079 and the 531. So if I want to just add totals, I can do that. But I have to say, I need to subtract out the overlap because otherwise it got added twice. So the reason I subtract the overlap is because it's in both of the separate totals. So I needed to take it out because overlapping events share that overlap value. And so we need to remove it because we don't want to double count it. Still all over that total 4,266. And so 9 plus 531 minus 267 gets us 1,843. As a decimal. And then when I times that by 100, I get 43.2% chance of it occurring. So if you're worried about that overlap piece, one option is just to add up all the numbers separately. So I could have gotten to that same probability by just going 332 plus 415 plus 565 plus 267. Oh, I don't want to add it again, so I'm then going to move on to the 107 plus 32 plus 31 plus 12 plus 24 plus 58. That would get me there. It's just a lot of numbers to add. And so often we like that shortcut of the totals. And so that's why I said number in A or B or both. If you want to sort of go to that formula, then you want to think about it as, and I'm going to sort of shrink this so that I have room. So I'd think of it as like a total in A plus the total in B, but then I want to minus the overlap of A and B. So I'll take out that overlap because it's counted both in group A and in group B, and it's still over the total number of outcomes. But we want to be careful because this strategy right here, this minus the overlap, only works. You only want to use this minus part if it's in a contingency table. If it's in a Venn diagram, you really just want to think about it as the number in A or B. You're going to just be adding up stuff. So, this way of thinking is really helpful for a Venn diagram. And this second way is really helpful for a table. But, be careful how you use it. So hopefully that gives you a sense of how to handle OR probability, specifically from a table. Make sure to check out that Venn diagram video to get a sense of what it looks like in a Venn diagram.